please give a warm welcome to our moderator, San Antonio Report Government and Politics reporter, the amazing Andrea Drusch.
Thanks, Angie. You better believe her. She's kicked someone out of a DA debate before, maybe more than one person. Hosting this debate was so important to us because the job of Texas District Attorneys is so important and getting tougher. Whoever voters choose to replace incumbent Joe Gonzalez will have a huge job on their hands, leading a 600-employee office that directly impacts public safety and trust in the justice system. At the same time, Republican state leaders have made it clear that they're willing to remove so-called rogue DAs from office. As many of you know, several big-name candidates looked at this race and took a pass. Now, voters have very little time to familiarize themselves with a big crowd of Democratic contenders, one of whom will be the odds-on favorite to carry this in a blue county in November. With a full stage and limited time, it's going to move really fast, but we hope that you come away with a better sense of how each of these candidates would manage an office with significant discretion over charging decisions and case prioritization that shaped the overall perception of safety and accountability in our community. Candidates, we're going to start by asking you each to introduce yourselves, then we'll have a series of questions for the entire group, and we'll close with a 1-minute closing statement. If your opponent mentions your name, you may be awarded a 30-second rebuttal at my discretion. You might also get a follow-up question from me on questions where we feel like more context is needed. You're ready? We'll start with the 1-minute and 30-second opening statements. Mr. Salinas, you're first.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Oscar Salinas. I'm a prosecutor at the Bexar County District Attorney's Office, where I've been there for about 12 years. I'm currently in a capital murder trial, so if I seem a little tired, forgive me for that. But it's important that we talk about these issues today. I'm a father of two, a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old we have at home. My wife, who's here, a nurse here in town. I'm a graduate of the University of Texas School of Law. But my story doesn't start with me. It begins with my grandfather, who crossed the river when he was 16 years old with nothing but 2 shirts, 2 pants, and 2 watermelons, so that I could someday have the opportunity to stand up right here, right now, in front of each and every one of you to answer the questions that need to be answered, to give you the plans that we need to have. I believe that our office should be fair, it should be efficient, and it should be effective. I have a unique experience in that I'm currently one of the prosecutors in the courts. I understand what it's like the day in and day out, the struggles that we have. And so I welcome any and all questions so that I can have the opportunity to get my vision across so that we can have a fair, effective, and efficient Bexar County District Attorney's Office. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, we're going to cut the applause because we got to move really fast. Mr. Bethke, you're next.
Good evening. Thank you, Chamber. Thank you, San Antonio Report, our audience, those online, my fellow veterans, my lovely wife of 35 years, and my campaign team. I'm Jim Bethke, and I'm a lifelong public servant. I'm also a husband, a father, a grandfather, and a veteran of the 101st Airborne Division. I am the only candidate with the experience and qualifications to lead this district attorney's office into the 21st century. For more than 30 years, I have built from scratch 3 major justice programs. I helped build the Texas Indigent Defense Commission, serving all 254 counties, which has generated more than $40 million to Bexar County alone. As director of the Managed Assigned Counsel program, I oversee an $18 million budget, more than 225 private attorneys that our office contracts with. I have 17 other staff, including myself. After arriving at the Bexar County Managed Assigned, I was able to secure an additional $1 million to set up a mental health division. I know what works, I know what doesn't, I know how to fix it. This campaign is not about me, it's about building a district attorney's office that makes Bexar County safer, fairer, and more transparent. I ask for your support. Thank you.
Davis?
I'm Jane Davis. I am running for district. The first question you may have about me is what separates you from this field of candidates? First of all, I'm a lifelong Democrat. Second of all, I have over 3 decades of experience working in DA's offices. I have been with the Bexar County District Attorney's Office and also been first assistant to the Guadalupe County DA's office. I have tried over 400 jury trials. I have served 7 different district attorneys. I've worked in every section of the DA's office, and there are 15. I've worked in every section, so I know what each section needs. I have the experience, I have the maturity, and I have the temperament to lead this office. A few more things about me. I have worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office as an intern. I have taught public school. I am a certified mediator. I have done defense attorney work. Right now, I'm the chief of the juvenile section of the DA's office. I'm also a commissioned pastor, so I understand mercy, and I'm also a rancher, a beekeeper, so I understand being tough. You may ask me, why would you want to run for this office? Well, I want to run because I'm not trying to launch a political campaign, but I do care about this office. My goodness, I've got
90
40
seconds, is that-
years in it.
Davis. Mr. Locke?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Shannon Locke. I'm the only candidate who is board certified in criminal law. I've been a prosecutor and I've been a criminal defense attorney for the past 20 years. Over the past week, our campaign has earned the endorsement of the Stonewall Democrats, Texas Progressive Caucus, and the AFL-CIO. They've endorsed our campaign because they recognize the importance of the only thing that I recognize. That is that we are in a constitutional crisis. I've been calling for investigations into the ICE raids that occurred at San Pedro and Bassi since November. I've been calling for them consistently at every debate, I've been going to protests, I've been in the streets. I am sincerely worried about what is coming next, and I'm not alone. Joe Gonzalez, when he heard my consistent calls for these investigations, called me out in the newspaper. He said that I was engaging in disinformation. Since then, and he also said that it couldn't be done, that it could not be investigated. Since then, 11 district attorneys across this country have joined me in calling for local investigations into ICE agents when they commit crimes while conducting their duties. 2 of those district attorneys are in Texas. We can do this, but we're choosing not to. They formed a coalition to fight against federal overreach. No targets, no favors,
Mr. Locke.
justice for all.
Ms. Powers? Hold on, sorry. The audience says it's not on. Dylan's gonna come save you. All right. Minute and 30 seconds.
Thank you. My name's Meli Carrión Powers. I'm a prosecutor, and I've been a prosecutor my entire career. Currently, I'm the chief of the Family Violence Division at the DA. I have been in this role for 7 years, and in the past 7 years, what I've been doing is working with my teams, prosecuting what I believe to be the most challenging and the most difficult, serious cases. Those are our child abuse, sexual assault, and every day of this job that I'm doing, I am making decisions along with my team to help them come up with the best ways to prosecute cases, the right resolutions for every person that's charged with a crime that comes through our division. And I've spent a great deal of time providing them the support and making these key decisions every single day. In the past 7 years of my leadership here at the DA's office as a family violence chief, we have made improvements to our family violence dismissal rate. We have eliminated a backlog that we received back in 2019, and many, many other things. The hard work that we have done over the past 7 years is important because leadership in this office is key. To run this office of 527 employees, it will take someone with prosecutorial experience, it will take someone with trial experience, it will take someone with leadership experience and sound judgment. And I believe, based on my background and all
Ms.
of
Powers.
thank you.
Ms. Chacon?
Good evening. My name is Meredith Chacon, and I'm sorry my voice is a little hoarse tonight, but you're too important for me to miss this. So I'll try and speak so you can understand me. Before I tell you about my experience, I want you to know a little bit about me personally. I've been married for 27 years almost to my husband Raymond, who teaches at St. Philip's College. I come from a family of public servants. I went to public school here in San Antonio. I raised my children here. They both graduated from public school here in San Antonio. I'm the daughter of a retired Air Force veteran and a retired school nurse. And my father went back to teach and then retired from teaching after the Air Force. Public service is in my heart. And a lot of people can talk about their experience, but not all experience is the same. I was a prosecutor for 15 years, but it's important to note that before that, I was a victim advocate at the DA's office. And the proudest moment of my campaign has been when Mary Green, my first chair prosecutor from when I was an advocate, put my sign in her yard. I left the DA's office in 2018 and I went to work at ChildSafe, where I learned to build teams and develop practices that would be best used in investigation and prosecution of child sexual assault and human trafficking. I then went on to work with Children's Advocacy Centers of Texas through my role at ChildSafe and built those teams out statewide. I was also on the Child Welfare Board here in Bexar County, where we put together a program that would prevent families from having recidivism in the system. I also represent families and children involved in the child welfare system here in Bexar County. I practice in courts in all the counties around Bexar County, and I do indigent defense. And I'm the only person who sits on a restorative justice court as the defense attorney. My name is Meredith Chacon. Thank you.
Ms. Legarreta?
Good evening. My name is Veronica Legarreta, or for our non-Spanish speaking friends, that's Veronica Legarreta. I've been an attorney for 20 years. I started my career out as a prosecutor, standing up for victims and public safety. I am now a defense attorney and a civil attorney, and I help people at the hardest and lowest times in their lives. I am also a current sitting magistrate judge for the city of San Antonio. So I make decisions that affect victims, defendants, and families every single time I take the bench. Outside the courthouse, I am a strong community advocate. I am the chair of the Hispanic Women Network of Texas, San Antonio, and I have some hermanas here in the crowd. I'm part of the Rotary, and I'm also part of the Hispanic Lawyers section of the State Bar of Texas. We raise funds for important issues that are very important to our community, because I believe that public safety cannot start in the courtroom. It has to start with a strong community, with opportunity, and with trust. I believe that Bexar County deserves a district attorney that knows every single side of the justice system. We don't need one-sided district attorneys. We need someone who is well-balanced, who understands victims, but also defendants. Somebody who will hold people accountable, but will lead with integrity. I am Veronica Legarreta. I am running for district attorney. I will be firm on crime, fair to all. I'm number 4 on the ballot. Veronica for DA. Thank you.
Ms. Chapa?
Good evening, everyone. Oops, am I having the same Marco?
I hear you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Luz Elena Chapa, a mother of 3, a St. Mary's University dual alum, a lawyer of 25 years, a former judge of 13 years, and a proud lifelong Democrat.
I think you need to stand closer to the mic, maybe.
Oh. Sorry, Dylan. I think we're good. We're making you work this evening. Okay.
That's what I'm here for.
Thank you.
Good. That's fine.
Andrea, would it be okay to start over?
Yeah. So 90 seconds at the clock. Okay. Sorry, she's going to give you one.
Okay. I've been on the ballot 6 times in Bexar County as a Democrat and won every single time. During my service as a justice on the 4th Court of Appeals for 12 years, I offered 600 criminal opinions and 800 civil. The justice of the 4th Court of Appeals was one of the highest and most important courts in our state. And I know the law, I know how to lead, and I don't buckle to outside political pressure. I will stand up to anyone, against anyone who tries to interfere with the administration of justice in Bexar County. And my record as a public servant proves that. Look, I've seen what our DA's office does well, and I know what we can do better. I have a plan to improve public safety and deliver justice. I will fight to fully fund and staff the office. I will tirelessly advocate for victims and the most vulnerable. And I will tackle the growing backlog of unprosecuted family violence cases that is staying on Bexar County. I will work hard to repair the broken relationship with law enforcement. Local law enforcement groups and prominent community leaders have endorsed me. I'm running hard and I'm running to win, and I don't take anything for granted. I humbly ask for your support, your trust, and your vote. Again, I'm Luz Elena Chapa, and I'm running to be your next Democratic Bexar County District Attorney. Thank you.
I think everybody, if you get as close to the mic as possible, there's a few that have been louder than others. 3 of you work at the Bexar County District Attorney's Office. 3 of you have worked there. 2 of you would be coming to this role from the outside, and no one on this stage believes that the system is working perfectly. Members of the community reading about this office have seen headline after headline about staff shortages, case backlogs, crimes committed by repeat offenders. From your perspective, please rank the biggest problems that need addressing and tell us where you would start making changes. And we're going to go this way this time. So, Ms. Chapa, you're first. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Well, we do have a big issue of repeat offenders, especially habitual repeat offenders and repeat offenders who have actually been let go and then they reoffend. We do have a crisis because we haven't been tough on crime in our community. We need to make serious changes to improve public safety, and that becomes an issue when our law enforcement are being shot by repeat offenders. And it's also becomes an issue when everyone is not working together, including law enforcement, the DA's office, community leaders, at the county level, at the city level. When we're working in different, without working together, rather, we don't come up with good solutions that benefit our community. Public safety is at the core of what we need in Bexar County. There's no one who understands the community's needs like I do. Thank you.
Ms. Legarreta?
Yes, I believe the question is, what in order do we think is most important that needs to be addressed? And these 3 go hand in hand. First, we have a backlog that needs to be fixed. It started with COVID, and there's a huge backlog of indicting cases, filing information on cases. In the courts, we have huge dockets for judges who just cannot handle it, not because of their own fault, but just because there are so many cases out there. Number 2 is the retention of staff and prosecutors. A lot of people say, I'm going to fund the office and we need more money. But the truth is, no one can guarantee that. We cannot guarantee money. But what we can guarantee is to support the individuals on the front line. We have to make the prosecutors understand we have your back. They need to be able to have discretion to make decisions. There doesn't need to be micromanaging like there is now. The next thing is communication. It is so hard for victims to get information from the DA's office. I had a client who needed help. I called the first assistant who was my chief when I was in the DA's office, and I couldn't even get a call back. How do we expect victims to get called back? So that's what I think is important. The backlog, retention, communication, they go hand in hand, and I plan to fix them by offering a better training to the prosecutors, also moving the prosecutors into areas where we can actually benefit from them. Some of them are so great. They're just in the wrong areas, and we need to move them. And only someone who has seen it from the inside and outside can understand that and solve that problem. Thank you.
Ms. Chacon, please rank the biggest problems that need addressing and tell us where we would start making changes.
I think communication is really a huge problem right now. Transparency. And I think that just as I have no poker face, you will always know that I'm transparent with what I'm telling you and what I will do with my teams. I have proven experience building teams. I was tasked with running the CPS unit when I was at the DA's office and told, go write a budget and present it. And so I did. I just sat down, did it, went to each of the commissioners and fought for those people and built that unit up to 38 people, which it had never been before, with $2 million to fund the unit. But it can't just be money. That's just an example. You have to retain people. You have to have their respect. You have to be able to train them. And I've trained prosecutors all over the state through the Texas District Attorney Counties Association, as well as through the Texas State Bar. I've done presentations. I'm respected in that way. And part of that is because I've been on the front lines trying the hardest cases. I've looked a jury in the eye and asked for life over and over again. And over again, they've said yes to that. I know that. And so when I talk to prosecutors and when I train prosecutors, I can teach them about that. And then the morale in the office is very bad right now. I had a prosecutor approach me the morning I filed, and he said, I was going to leave. I was going to turn in my notice, but I heard you filed, and I'm hanging on because I'm hoping you're going to win. And so I know that they want me. I know that they respect me. And if you want someone to teach you how to go into battle, you need someone who's been in a battle themselves. So transparency, communication, and morale. Thank you. Meredith Chacon.
Ms. Powers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dylan,
I think Meli's trying to get more time.
can we loan her a mic?
Here, you want to just.
It's
Oh, are they attached? Okay.
I don't know.
Meli.
We were told not to touch the mics. Someone's been
Meli.
touching the mics.
It's on. You have a magic touch, apparently.
All right, minute and 30 seconds on the clock. Rank the biggest problems that need addressing and tell us where you would start making changes.
Thank you. I promise I'm not touching this microphone. Somebody's filming somewhere. So the most important, as someone who's a leader in the office right now and works with the prosecutors directly every day, what I see and is the biggest hurdle are the staffing issues, and I agree. Anyone saying that they're going to fund or they're going to do all of these magical things to get money, that's an uninformed position, because it's not that easy, right? We don't control, the DA's office doesn't control the budget. The commissioner's court does, or grant funding does. But that's the struggle that I see my prosecutors and those that I work with, that's what I see them struggle with every day. It does have an effect on backlogs, and it does have an effect on morale, because then you have people carrying too much of the weight because there are vacancies that shouldn't be there, because funding was given to other counties, but not your county, not Bexar County. Part of that solution on top of the funding is restructuring. Restructuring and moving resources around the office so that caseloads are balanced and that people working on the harder, more intense, violent crimes don't necessarily have the same caseload as somebody working on your simpler crimes. But restructuring and reorganizing the office is critical. Secondly, I would work with law enforcement on how we are receiving cases. There's a long way to go on that, but it is something that I can do. Thank you.
Mr. Locke?
Thank you. I've been all throughout this community. If you're following me on social media, you know that I've been to the north side, to the west side, to the east side, and the south side. And as I'm talking to people, the theme is clear. There is a belief, and it is shot throughout our community, that the district attorney's office does not care about me. They don't care about me. And the way that we fix that is we start demonstrating that we care. We start doing the hard work. When federal agents come and terrorize our communities, we're going to hold them to the letter of the law. We'll make sure that they don't break the law, and if they break the law, we're going to prosecute them. When somebody is victimized by crime, we will give them a seat at the table. In the 15 different divisions at the Bexar County District Attorney's Office, I'm going to put an ombudsman. That's somebody that you can always call and find out what the problem is, what's going on with your case, and they will get an answer to you. We need to begin communicating to our community that we care about you. That's the most important thing. Because when people think that the district attorney's office doesn't care about them, they stop calling the police, they stop asking for help, and that's when people really get hurt. So that's the biggest problem that we have at the district attorney's office, and the biggest problem that needs outside help. You can't fix this from somebody who's been on the inside. You have to come in from the outside with a fresh perspective and start teaching everybody to communicate broadly that we care about every part of our community. Thank you.
Ms. Davis, you've mentioned in previous debates that you would like to pull the best ideas from previous administrations, and you have worked under a lot of them. Tell us where you still see the biggest problems remaining and where you would start addressing them.
I have a list of 8 things I would do differently from what the DA's office does now, but I'm not going to have time to tell you all of them. But the first thing I would do is protect the victims. And in order to protect the victims, when a victim of domestic violence has called for help, I would make sure that somebody from the DA's office contacts that victim within 24 hours of the assault. Further, that person needs to be contacted again within the first month and needs to be aware of the services available. Our Family Justice Center, for example, we can have food, clothing, shelter, whatever that person might need. So that's one thing. I would work with the victims better than we're doing right now. Even though we're working at it, I would do it better. Second of all, we need to work with law enforcement. And in doing that and working on the backlog, I would put an assistant district attorney in every substation with all the law enforcement that would have that person to consult, so that when an officer writes a report, it doesn't have to sit on his desk while he's thinking about it and then go to the DA's office and sit on somebody's desk for a while and take all that time. There would be someone in office with law enforcement to confer about the case and what the evidence that it may be needed. I would encourage specialty courts. I would also encourage a mentoring system in the DA's office to train new prosecutors. It would almost be like the old sister court, way they used to do it, where experienced prosecutors in the felony courts were tied to the people in the misdemeanor courts so that they could work together. And by the way, I want to thank the chamber for this stool. They brought it up here for my knee replacement.
Thank you. Mr. Bethke.
I feel the first thing that needs to be addressed is restore meaningful credibility and communications with law enforcement. What I'm reading in the papers is it's broken, and I don't see how you can effectively run an office when you're the chief law enforcement officer without effective, meaningful communication with law enforcement. I would form a committee and make sure that we're meeting on a regular basis. It wouldn't be optional. Additionally, victims need to be contacted. I hear constant complaints that the victims are not being communicated with on a timely manner. How do you go about and do something like that? You've got to have in place a type of case management system where you can track the information and have everyone know what is being done. The backlog is a huge crisis because victims wait. People that are out on bond, it takes too long. So you've heard the saying, justice delayed, justice denied. We have to reduce the time between the events. The district attorney controls the valve that brings people into the system. You have to have a meaningful screening process at the front end and be smarter and just not accept everything. And then last, radically improve transparency. If you go to the website, it's a flashback to 1995. You've got to have public-facing dashboards so the advocates in the community, others, know what is going on. So those are the ideas I have.
Mr. Salinas, as somebody who is currently working in the DA's office right now, rank the biggest problems that still need addressing and tell us where you would start.
Thank you. So I come from the unique perspective that, I picked a jury yesterday on a capital murder, started the trial today, and I'm here right now. And I can tell you that every DA's office goes through its unique problems every time. And what I can tell you right now is that we are dealing with a growing population. In the last 12 years, the population of Bexar County has grown 27%. And so what does that lead to? That leads to more cases coming in. That leads to the backlog that we're talking about. Can we tackle this backlog? Of course, but we do not want to sacrifice quality in our prosecutions when attacking that backlog. And so the question is, well, what about more resources? We are a place of limited resources. So what is required of our office is to look at where our resources are allocated and make sure that all of our staff is working to their highest potential. And can we reduce the backlog that way? Can we make sure that we have clear communication with our victims and our witnesses? As far as office morale, I agree. We do need to have a mentoring program. No one wants to come into a new job and then go and have to try, complicated criminal cases without having the adequate training to effectively prosecute those cases. The reality is we are a growing population with limited resources, and it takes our office to look internally to make sure that we're using those resources effectively to the best of our ability, because there is no guarantee, as it's been stated up here. There is no guarantee that more resources will come. So we, as an office, need to do with what we have the best that we can. We need to make sure that our victims and our witnesses are contacted early on in the process. Thank you.
Our second question is, when widely covered criminal cases don't result in convictions, members of the community may question whether justice is being served. What would you do as district attorney to improve prosecution strategies and public understanding in high-profile cases? And that's back to you, Oscar, with 90 seconds on the timer.
the key about in prosecution, and I've been in pretty high profile cases and I've been in very difficult cases. What's important is to make sure that each and every prosecution is done with the intent that we can prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt. However, that still requires the convincing of 12 jurors, 12 people from the community. What needs to be communicated to each member of the public is that just because a case results in a not guilty does not mean that that was an unjust or unwarranted prosecution. It just means that the jury and the system of our justice system is working appropriately. That is, we have presented a case, we left it up to 12 members of the public, and they rendered a verdict of not guilty. What needs to also be, going back to kind of what we talked about our limited resources, we need to make sure that our prosecutors are effectively trained so that they're properly trying these cases, that they're getting in the pieces of evidence that need to be brought in. They're getting those types of arguments in front of the jury. Also, what also needs to be adequately described to the members of the public is that when we're talking about this growth in our population, we're talking about also a growth in evidence that's available. And we need to make sure, as it's been stated before up here, that that evidence is coming in a timely manner to our office. And the way that's done is that we need to make sure that we're effectively communicating with all our partners in law enforcement to make sure that our cases are being prepped to the best of their ability and that we're trying them to the best of our ability. Thank you.
Mr. Bethke, when widely covered criminal cases don't result in convictions, members of the community may question whether justice is being served. What would you do as district attorney to improve prosecution strategies and public understanding in high-profile cases?
First, internally, you would need to have a high-profile team at the district attorney's office, and you have to, when these cases go to trial, they have to be prepared. You have to be ready. If there's a limitation of resources, you have to figure out and make sure that the powers to be adequately fund. These cases should not be lost. You need to be effectively communicating with law enforcement. You need to prepare these cases, and when you go to trial, you need to win those cases. So with the public, if we have the data and we're showing that we compare to Harris County and our lawyers are, 25% more workload, then we need to bring that and change that. And the only way that'll happen is with radical transparency so the public can actually see the scorecard on how we're doing.
Ms. Bethke, Ms. Davis.
I think that first of all, in prosecutorial strategy, we must recruit the best prosecutors that we can, and we must train them to be ready to understand how to try a case. And I certainly know how to try a case. I think we, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, we need to mentor those people and bring them up to speed. Now, I think also with the public, transparency is important, but we've got to work to build faith in the criminal justice system. It's so important that you all believe what the DA's office is doing is the right thing. We need to have open communication with the law enforcement and work together so that we can bring a case that is ready, that is well prepared, and that you'll know that if I'm DA, I'm going to tell you the truth, and I'm not going to play any games, and I'm not going to do things that are not the right thing. I'll always do the right thing.
Mr. Locke.
Thank you. I have the broadest experience of anybody on this stage. I've practiced in federal and state court, and I do it every single day. What that means is that I'm used to handling high-profile cases. I'm used to going into the courtroom and there's cameras there, and and everything is on the line. That is something that I'm accustomed to doing. But also, additionally, because I practice not only in San Antonio, in Bexar County, I practice in the surrounding counties, and many times with the U.S. Attorney's Office, I have access to lots of people that will find interest in working in the Bexar County District Attorney's Office, especially when we start prosecuting ICE agents. People are going to be extraordinarily excited about doing that because it's something that they're looking forward to doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to begin recruiting the top talent from the U.S. Attorney's Office, where they didn't get paid for a significant amount of time. We're going to start recruiting from from surrounding counties, and we're going to bring back the people that left because of the toxic work environment that existed or does exist at the Bexar County District Attorney's Office. It's what we're going to do. And that's how we're going to solve the problem, because we need more talented prosecutors, more experienced prosecutors, and prosecutors who understand how to try and prove a case And then we're going to communicate transparently with the community. We're going to use social media. We're going to explain exactly why we're trying a case and exactly where it went wrong if it goes wrong. We're going to take the mask off and we're going to show everybody exactly why it is that we're doing what we're doing, because we need to communicate very clearly that we're doing it for the community's best interest.
That's
Thank you.
time. Ms. Powers, we have a new mic for you. I'll repeat the question in the meantime. How would you, as district attorney, improve prosecution strategies and public understanding in high-profile cases?
Okay, so in order to be able to handle well high-profile cases, it will take someone to get charged with office that has prosecutorial experience and extensive prosecutorial experience. So the first part of handling a high-profile case is making sure that after at the onset, when the case is coming in, that you're talking with, working with law enforcement, because part of the prosecution stage is getting the evidence, making sure you have all the evidence that you need, that you have all the evidence that exists, and that you have sufficient evidence to prove your case. Once that occurs, then the case goes into the hands of experienced prosecutors. They're prosecutors that have been in the office for 5, 10, 15 years. Ideally, we're able to retain prosecutors longer because of the staffing issues and the pay and all those things that we always talk about. But ideally, we have prosecutors that are staying longer so they can gain that experience. Now, these decisions on how to handle high-profile cases and how to resolve those high-profile cases are not easy decisions. And many, many times when those decisions are made, not only they're difficult, but sometimes they make people unhappy. Sometimes they don't meet the expectation of the community. And I think that part of the problem and what we need to do is make sure that we are explaining why we are reaching certain decisions, how we are reaching certain decisions on these cases so that everyone understands. It takes experience, it takes judgment, and it takes leadership. Meli, Carrión, Powers, thank you.
Ms. Chacon, you've been one of the biggest critics of the Gonzalez administration. You even tried to run against the incumbent under another party's banner in 2022. Let's have you take this question next. How would you improve prosecutorial strategies and public understanding in high-profile cases?
So I can speak personally about why I believe that people have left the office, because not only did I refuse to stay and work for the current administration, but my two law partners, who I greatly respect, one of whom is the finest attorney I've ever worked with in my life in trial, left after years of not being able to work there anymore. So I know the morale problems are real, and that's why many, many prosecutors have left. And they haven't left the prosecution business. Many of them have gone to Medina County, Guadalupe County, they've gone to Kerr County, and all the counties surrounding us, because they love the work. I did this job for $47,000 a year when I had $150,000 in student loans when I started. I didn't do it for the money. So money's not going to solve the problem. You've got to have somebody that has the respect and has been in front of a jury on a high-profile case. And I have that. I had to try an attorney, a defense attorney, for what he did to his clients in a extensive human trafficking scheme. And I worked a task force with law enforcement to do that investigation and to bring that case to trial. There was tremendous pressure on me when I did that, but I had support. I had a boss that had my back, and I was allowed to be my first chair on the case and make the decisions I need to make. So you need to not only support your people, train them, and then empower them to do that. And because of that, I was able to obtain an 80-year verdict in that case, and even after the pressure of the international attention that was gained when a juror fainted in the middle of my trial, and we had to see what we were going to do going forward. So I know the pressure, the people know that, and they will understand and respect that. Thank you. Meredith Chacon.
Ms. Legarreta.
Yes, I do know that case because I actually represented one of the victims and had to drive with her and hold her hand as she testified in tears. So I do understand the pressure of high-profile cases. However, let me let the public know what happens currently. You have a court, you have 3 prosecutors for the criminal trial division, you have 3 prosecutors, maybe, hopefully, for the family violence unit, right? The problem is they're constantly being traded around, moved from court to court. So every single time a new prosecutor comes in, that case starts over, right? There's no consistency. So what I would do is I would create a special crimes unit where we have 5, 6 prosecutors, we staff it, and all high-profile cases will go to that unit. So that way, that doesn't happen anymore. Okay, we need to have continuity. That is not happening right now, and that is why a lot of high-profile cases are being lost. There are good prosecutors in the office right now. I mean, I see one right now, Josh Sandoval. I tried cases with him. There are very good prosecutors in there. Are we going to recruit them from the U.S. Attorney's Office? No. The DA's office is a stepping stone for them to get to the U.S. Attorney's Office. We need to use the prosecutors we have now. We need to train them better in criminal law, the rules of evidence, and trial advocacy. This is not something that you have to do by yourself. This job is something where you will never do it by yourself. It is a group effort, and that is how we succeed.
Ms. Chapa.
I want to apologize to everyone because I assumed a question and I didn't hear it. And I learned my lesson. And I thought you had asked about habitual
What would you do
offenders.
as district attorney to improve prosecution strategies and public understanding of high-profile cases?
Okay, thank you, Andrea, for repeating that. So look, as a justice on the Fourth Court of Appeals, one of the most important cases, most important courts in Texas, I graded all of their papers, these junior prosecutors, and I know how to work a case from the ground up. Many missteps have occurred, and I'll tell you why. When you're not working with law enforcement, when you don't have a strong working relationship with law enforcement, things happen where there's evidence lost, and especially with respect to the intake process, they just keep moving the cases up the chain, and that's creating the backlog as well. Another problem is that the current administration and everyone embedded and entrenched in all the problems, they buckle to political pressure. So when a high-profile case comes, they buckle. And they also are listening to outside influences. And as a judge on the Fourth Court of Appeals for 13 years, I know what that looks like. I don't buckle to pressure, media or otherwise. So at the end of the day, it does amount to working with law enforcement so that we're working hand in hand to improve public safety.
Our next question, district attorney is an elected position, but it's a highly technical role in which the qualities that help a candidate make it through the Democratic primary are not necessarily the same qualities that would make someone successful at the job. What parts of this role would be new to you, and how will you get up to speed quickly in those areas? Ms. Chapa, your opponents like to point out that you are the only candidate on the stage who has not tried a case as a lead prosecutor. So let's have you take this one first.
Sure, of course. Again, as a justice on the Fourth Court of Appeals, I reviewed thousands of cases as an authoring judge and also as a panel member. As an authoring judge, about 600 cases, and my papers were also further scrutinized by the Court of Criminal Appeals, and I only have one reversal. So I know what it takes to work a case from the ground up. I know the missteps along the way from the very beginning of the investigatory process to all the way to the appellate process. The latter part of your question was?
How will you get up to speed quickly in those areas, prosecuting cases as a lead prosecutor?
Well, what we also need to do is funding. I think there was something like I had a magic wand or something about funding, but here's the deal. We need to work together with county commissioners, and they need to understand what the need is. And I've done that in terms of, for instance, mental health funding. And we also have to go to the core issues of our community and advocate for those fundings, because right now we're not doing that. I think I still have time. Excuse me. And so we're not doing that. And the funding comes from when you work with strong relationships and there's built trust, and that's all I have to say.
Ms. Legarreta, what parts of this job would be new to you, and how will you get up to speed quickly in those areas?
Sure. I think what's going to be new to me is having to handle press conferences and whatnot inside the courtroom, doing the job, administration leading. That is nothing new to me. That is something I can start right off the bat. There will be times that I will have to work with groups to figure out certain things that I want to do. For example, we have an adult who calls 911 on their adult son because they're having a mental health episode, okay? They didn't mean to create a criminal. They just needed some help. But what happens? That person gets arrested. They go to county jail. Then the current prosecutors there sign off, and they push them through into the county jail. You have just turned someone into a criminal and put them in the county jail when they're having a mental health episode. What I would like to do is, we have nurses there who draw blood for blood warrants. Let's do a mental health assessment. Let's review what's going on. Let's see if they need medication. We put people who are drunk on a 6-hour hold before we release them. Let's do a mental health hold for 6 hours. Let's see if we can help them. Let's not turn them into criminals when that was never the point. Those activities, those actions that I want to do is where I will need help. Not because I don't know what I want to do, but because it takes a group to do it. And only a group together will make Bexar County a safer place. Thank you.
Ms. Chacon, which parts of this job would be new to you, and how will you get up to speed quickly on them?
I think having that office on the 7th floor will be new to me mostly. I think that what's important is that a person that has this job has a proven record of building teams in various different agencies, both nonprofit and law enforcement. And I have a successful record at that. I have worked not only in our nonprofit community to build teams to address human trafficking of children, a care coordination team, as well as addressing investigation of child sexual abuse and human trafficking. I've worked with law enforcement on those teams and with community partners and nonprofits to make sure that we're trauma informed in the way that we are handling those cases. And I think because I'm good at building relationships, I look forward to that part of the job the most, because the DA should be standing shoulder to shoulder with the district court judges, asking for more resources, for more courts, because one of the reasons there's a backlog is there aren't enough courts to hear the cases. We need to be standing shoulder to shoulder, not having the budget fights. And I've been in those rooms where everybody's fighting over the same piece of the pie when we need to learn to get together. So I believe that is something that would be a challenge, and I'm up for that challenge because I've done that in the past. We had to reallocate money from Child Protective Services adoptions units to fund our CPS unit, but it made sense. And so we were able to do that, but that took a lot of work. And so I have a proven success record at being able to do these things and work with community partners to minimize the amount of resources we need and to maximize the amount of resources that we have. Meredith Chacon, thank you.
Ms. Powers, what parts of this job would be new to you, and how would you get up to speed quickly?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. I believe that I'm ready to hit the ground running on day one. There are going to be some small logistical issues that I'm just not privy to every day, but those are minor and logistical in nature, and that's not going to be something that is much of a challenge or stands in my way. I believe that what can be done in this office is I will assure that we are making sure that we are fighting for the low. Anytime we have a case where a violent offender or repeat offender is facing a bond recommendation, we should be recommending high bonds on those repeat offenders. We should be challenging low bonds when bonds are too low. We should be lowering bonds when the person that is in the defendant is in question. They are not someone that is necessarily a risk to the community. We need to make sure that those bond decisions are being made based on risk. The other thing that I would add is I would say that we would need to expand the diversion programs that we have to make sure that those people that have mental health or substance abuse issues are getting the care that they need and the tools that they need to thrive in our community. Additionally, the restructuring that I mentioned earlier and how the cases come into the office is something that is very nuanced. And it's actually different from many of the other counties in Texas. But I would work with law enforcement. I have a plan in place to work with law enforcement where we change how cases are filed with the DA's office. And what this will do is it will improve public safety, and it will make sure that dangerous offenders are not on the streets walking on your streets. Thank you.
Mr. Locke, what parts of this job would be new to you, and how will you get up to speed quickly?
Thank you. I want to say something very quickly. Calling Jane Davis, Meli Powers, Meredith Chacon junior prosecutors is insulting. It is insulting. They are not junior prosecutors. We disagree about lots of things, and I'm running against all of them. But one of the things that you have to do, stepping into this role, to get respect, you have to give respect. And you're going to have to give respect to the people whose office you're taking over. And frankly, if everybody quits, we're all in a lot of trouble. And if somebody who is incompetent takes over this office, we are in deep, deep trouble. And I'm sorry, but they are not junior prosecutors. They aren't. Meli and I, we have fought out cases constantly, but I respect her. Jane and I, we disagree about everything, but I respect her. I do. And that's one of the things that you have to do when you're running this office is you have to sit down with people and say, look, we have our disagreements, but Respect comes and it goes. It's an exchange. And that's one of the ways that you manage people. But if you think you know everything, you're a big danger to this community, especially when you know nothing.
Ms. Davis, what parts of this job would be new to you and how would you get up to speed quickly?
The first thing I think that we need to be aware of is that, well, I'm just gonna ask you, I hope that you guys understand from my experience that on day one, I can walk in and know how to run this office. Second thing, I think it's important that the leader sets the tone. And I have been a leader. I have done every job in the DA's office except being DA. I have been the first assistant in Guadalupe County. I know how to manage an office of 567 people. One of the things that I have done as a chief of the juvenile unit that has served me well, I believe, is that every day I go around and I speak to every one of my employees. There's 35 of them in the juvenile section. I go around and I talk to them. I know what's going on in their lives. I'm friendly. I think you've got to do that sort of thing if you want to work with the people. People say the morale is bad. Well, the morale in the juvenile section is very good. People want to be in the juvenile section because it is productive, it is fun, and the one at the top needs to make it that way. The tone at the top is very important in the DA's office, and I believe it's very important that that tone be one of integrity, of hard work, of protecting the citizens of Bexar County, and that's what I intend to do.
Mr. Bethke, what are the places where you would need to get up to speed quickly and how will you do it?
What I haven't heard is what the office really needs at the top position. It's executive leadership. It needs folks that have actually presented budgets, have folks that have presented in front of the Texas legislature, county commissions, things of that nature. Fortunately, throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to receive some excellent executive leadership training through the governor's office, through national organizations, and I've read many, many books. Now, dealing with the substantive issues and internal, the Texas District and County Attorneys Association puts on outstanding trainings. And I know they have a newly elected program that they offer in December. That notebook is probably 4 inches thick. So you're going to have, that'll be something I'd have to read and go through and listen. I know the executive director. I've worked with him, I guess, going on probably 23, 24 years in various capacities. Also, there's the National District Attorneys Association. I would go and visit with them. And then one of the things that we often overlook is where is it working well in the state and other jurisdictions? Go visit with those district attorney's office, find out what's worked, what hasn't worked, and then bring those back. That's what I've been able to do with indigent defense. We got started 38 years, so I had 38 years of history to draw upon. So that's what I would do to get up to speed.
Mr. Salinas.
Thank you. I guess it's being a politician. I'm not much of a politician. What I can tell you, what I'm comfortable doing is representing the victims in court. I've sat with the mother who lost her child to a drunk driver who was a U.S. Marshal. I've sat there with the child who was raped by her mom and father who recorded it and posted it online. I've prosecuted a man who bragged about killing a child and telling me that I'd never find her body. And now he's doing 75 years for a different case. You know what I'm talking about, Sarah. So it's being a politician, right? And if you want someone that's going to tell you what you want to hear, then don't vote for me. Don't. But if you want someone who's going to give you practical solutions and have an open dialogue about what our limitations are, what we can actually do, then I'm your person. Because I'm not promising you that come January 2nd of 2027, the office is going to be perfect. No, it's going to take time. And that time is going to come through a restructuring of the office, an allocation of resources, communication. We need to build our reputation back up. We need to make sure that we're in the communities. We need to make sure that we're actively prosecuting the cases that we need to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law. But I'm not a politician. I'm not. And so I think that's going to be the most difficult part of the job is I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear. Thank you.
We are cutting it a little close on time, so let's do 1 minute answers to this next one. District attorneys in Texas's large urban counties have been in the spotlight from both progressive groups that see them as laboratories for justice reform and from the state's Republican leaders who vowed to crack down on DAs who step out of line. The modern district attorney is now expected to both put away bad guys and keep the community safe while also being a beacon of their community's value system. How will you balance those goals at a time when state leaders are making it easier to throw out DAs they disagree with and install their own replacements? Let's start with Mr. Salinas. You have 1 minute.
I'll tell you a story. My son and I and my wife and daughter, we were going to a practice for my son. It was in McAllister Park, and my daughter is primarily Spanish speaking. Actually, she doesn't know much English yet. She's 3. Well, she was 3 at the time. And so we're driving through, and there's a bunch of deer, and we rolled the window down, and my daughter said, "Hola," to which there was a response, "Speak English," and to go back to our country, and a bunch of other words said to my daughter. And those people were wearing Trump shirts. And so it came to the realization that there is a segment of the population that gravitates toward that. But I don't believe that the majority of the population gravitates toward that. So our role as Democrats should be to govern with responsibility effectively so that we can bring those people back, those people that aren't stuck in that backwards thinking or that mindset. But the role of a Democrat elected to the high office is to show that our way of governing is the way of the people, of the average person, of the everyday person. Thank you.
Mr. Bethke, so far you're the only candidate in this race to have accepted a major endorsement from a justice reform group, the Texas Organizing Project, at a time when this office has come under such criticism for its relationship with the Wren Collective during the Gonzalez administration. How will you balance that at a time when state leaders have made it easier to throw out DAs that they disagree with and install their own replacements?
Great question. And one of the reasons I decided to throw my name in the hopper was when I looked around. I'm honored and proud to have gotten the endorsements that I've gotten from the Texas Organizing Project and others, because I do believe in restorative justice. And these things do not counter public safety, fairness, or radical transparency. So it's a different approach and a different methodology, but we have 5,000 people incarcerated right now. 2,500 of those cases are not filed. What can the defense lawyer do on those? Nothing other than just to tell his or her client not to say anything. So we've got to be a lot smarter. We have too many people in the jail. We're actually warehousing people outside of the system too, which costs us additional money. So we've got to be smart on crime, and also that doesn't counterbalance being hard on the people that commit serious violent cases or the habitual violent offenders. So we just have to be smart on it, and we have to have the right team in place.
Ms. Davis.
In the DA's office right now, we have had reporting requirements by the Office of the Attorney General. We have been trying to be compliant with those reporting requirements. The Attorney General is just looking for a way to kick Joe Gonzalez out, but we have complied with what the Attorney General has said. But we also filed a case against him, which we have won so far. I'm sure he'll appeal it. But we are also saying that reform is important, restorative justice is important, and we've done some good things in that regard. What we have to do is to be smart on how we talk about those things and not wave a red flag that's going to get the governor down here on the top of us. We need to be reform, but not brag about it so much.
Mr. Locke, as Ms. Davis suggested, we have a very progressive district attorney right now who has said that what you're suggesting with ICE officers is adding to the gross inaccuracies plaguing the public discourse on a controversial issue. This is even coming from a very progressive district attorney. How will you manage all of this at a time when state leaders are looking to throw out district attorneys that they disagree with?
So Joe Gonzalez was wrong about that. He was wrong about that, and I was joined by 11 district attorneys across this country who are going to use the district attorney's office to investigate ICE agents. 49, there is statutory authority for district attorneys investigating these cases, and there are 2 district attorneys in Texas that are willing to investigate ICE agents who break the law while committing crime, while conducting their ICE raids. So what we're going to do is we're going to investigate them, and we're going to treat them as any other person. They're not above the law. They think they have a blank check, but they don't have a blank check, because the law makes sure that they can be held accountable. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's what we have to do, because the greatest threat that we have right now is this constitutional crisis that is threatening us from Washington, and it's It's rubber stamped by Austin. And so what we have to do is we have to make sure that we have a district attorney who's willing to hold them accountable. And guess what? It will keep us more safe because
That's it.
they'll be deterred from doing it.
Ms.
Can I
Powers.
get a rebuttal?
I don't believe that you were name checked in that.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry?
You were not name checked in that. Ms.
He's
Powers?
called me out 2 or 3 times to be against him on his ICE deal, so I want to rebut what he just said.
That was another
You
debate.
didn't get a name check in that, so we'll
Okay.
wrap it into your closing statement. Sorry.
Okay.
Ms. Powers.
Is it the same question?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. When I decided to put my name in the hat to run for district attorney several months ago, I had a number of people that I had to meet with and I talked to and learn about. They wanted to learn about me. I wanted to learn about them. And one of the questions that kept coming up that I was really struggling with was, are you a reform prosecutor or are you a law and order / punitive justice prosecutor? And it was a struggle for me because I couldn't put myself in one box because I am a career prosecutor. I've been a prosecutor for 25 years. In those 25 years, I have tried a number of cases. And what I'm trying to say here today is that there are times that there are going to be very, very violent crimes where somebody needs to go to prison to protect the community. And then there's going to be times where people need help. And they need help to address these root cause issues that cause the criminal behavior. And that's something that we should invest in as well. Meli, Carrión, Powers. Thank you.
The modern district attorney is now expected to be both putting away bad guys and keep the community safe while also being a beacon of their community's value system. How do you balance those goals at a time when state leaders are making it easier to throw out DAs they disagree with and install their own replacements? Ms. Chacon.
I think it's important first to note that in Texas, we have a special oath as prosecutors. We aren't a state where we seek justice. We are a state where we are told on our oath that we are to see that justice is done. And I understand that they think that they can pass laws that mean they can remove prosecutors from not doing their jobs. But I believe they're wrong. Because if you elect me, I will be. I will be seeing that justice is done. And I don't care how much pressure I get or where I get it from, I will fight for that because I have always done that. And I think it is important that you understand what prosecutorial discretion really means. And the problem with the current administration when he came in was that he developed a policy of just outright declination, which doesn't allow you to have discretion on individual cases or on individual kind of fact scenarios. And I think that's where the difference is. And the defense to the lawsuit that they file is that you are seeing that justice is done. So bring it on. And we'll have the best chief of the civil section we could ever have to make sure that that happens. We have to have somebody strong in that role. But you can't be afraid that someone's going to take you out and be moved either way from political pressure in order to have this job. You have to be above that. Thank you.
Ms. Legarreta.
Okay, so just so the public knows, the question is like, how do we balance putting people away and being reformed, but also in a time when the government is trying to get rid of district attorneys who are not prosecuting cases, right? Because that's a reality that's happening, or they're trying to. And the thing is, we don't do it with brute force and we don't have to fight it. We have to follow the law creatively. They may tell us we have to prosecute a case, but they don't tell us how we have to prosecute the case, right? There are pretrial diversion programs that allow people to go through the system without convictions and without a criminal record, but you're still following the law. You're just kind of painting real close to the line, right? And that is what we need to do. We don't need to be starting fights. We don't need to be getting ourselves ousted. We don't need to be creating problems for the office. We need to get creative. We need to get smart because we can do both. And we can tell the government, you know what? I understand the law. I will follow the law, but the way I execute it is my way. Thank you.
Ms. Chapa.
Thank you, Andrea. So on this stage, there's about 200 years of combined prosecutorial experience, yet we have the largest unprosecuted family violence cases in the state. We also have the highest number of dismissals of unprosecuted cases involving family violence in the state. So I take great offense that our DA's office currently is so broken. That's why San Antonio Police Officers Association and the Deputy Sheriff Association has endorsed me because they know I can get the job done. My community knows me, and I know them. We are going to fix core issues with respect to mental health, the jail, and we're not going to allow cases to go unprosecuted. We're not going to dismiss cases because witnesses can't be found, because files have literally sat on desks.
That's time. But we are rolling into our closing statements, and we are actually starting with Ms.
I'm
Chapa.
sorry, Andrea. I would like to rebut that. The comments about the family violence details, that's my division, and I need to correct some false information.
I'm so sorry. We are so close on time. I'm going to have to ask that you wrap that into your closing statement. You have
Okay.
1 minute.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, Lee, the San Antonio Report team, and many thanks to Joanna, Jeff, and the Chamber, all of who made this event possible. So what did we learn tonight? I admit I'm not the world's best debater, but I can certainly weather political attacks pretty well. More importantly, I'm the only candidate who can bring real change to the DA's office, because I'm the only one on this stage who hasn't been a part of the problems and the dysfunction. By the way, Ms. Legarreta, I had to resign.
Yeah, you did.
Yes.
I did
As a
not.
judge. Yes, you do. You need to go read.
You should read the rules,
Can
because you shouldn't
go
put
read-
judge on your
go
campaign
read-
stuff. You
go
are in
read-
violation,
go
and that's a
read
Class A misdemeanor. She is committing a Class A misdemeanor right now on this stage.
Okay. You can call the Judicial Commission.
I
got
have,
approved,
and
I
you
got
are.
approved, And I got approved. So I've earned the title judge for the last 13 years.
Unopposed.
Trusted judge. Okay.
All right.
So
Ms.
go
Legarreta?
read.
Yes, thank you.
5 and 6.
What the DA's office needs, what Bexar County needs, is a well-rounded individual, not a career judge who reads papers. We do not need a career prosecutor. What we need, someone who has worked in the prosecutor's office, who is a defense attorney, who is a judge, and who knows what the community needs. At some point, we have to remember this isn't about us. It's not about one person. It's not about one office. It is about Bexar County. And as your DA, I will be firm on crime, fair to all. And together we will make Bexar County a safer place. I'm Veronica Legarreta. Number 4 on the ballot, Veronica for DA. Thank you so much.
Ms. Chacon?
So I'm going to close with a story. And I've told this before, but my husband's told me, I need to smile more, so I'll smile. I had a case once. It was a human trafficking case that I had to do a retrial on. And my victim, who I'd spent a lot of time with, did not have a really great vocabulary. She was delayed, unsure exactly what her diagnosis was because she'd never really been in school. The defense attorney was horrible to her. He cross-examined her, he ridiculed her, and every time that he tried to use a word she didn't understand or pick on her, I objected. And in court, you have to stand when you object. So the next day when we came back and we got the maximum sentence, I was talking to the jury, and I was really sore from all the objections I had made. And one of the jurors said to me, I've never seen anyone fight like you. If my child is ever hurt, will you be my prosecutor? And I'm just here to tell you, I can be your prosecutor. I can instill that kind of work ethic and commitment to the children of this county in my prosecutors. Give me your vote and you can choose me, Meredith Chacon.
Ms. Powers?
Thank you. I think it's important for, the voters, you all, your friends and your family, I think you deserve honesty. And I think you deserve answers that are not only truthful, but are accurate. So it is incredibly offensive for someone to misstate stats and statistics to you when I can tell you here today that over the past, you can take the family violence dismissal rate over the past 15 years. And in 2025, we've had one of the lowest dismissal rates. If you compare Bexar County to the 10 largest counties in Texas, we have the 4th best out of all 10, these are the big counties, we have the 4th best dismissal rate, where many of our neighboring friends are far, far, far above us and dismissing many, many more cases. Family violence is these are hard cases because many of our victims are not able to come to court and testify. And if you had knowledge and understood how prosecution works, you would know that you cannot prove many, many cases without a victim. It is important for you to understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Locke.
Thank you. We're in the midst of a constitutional crisis, and you can't address a constitutional crisis if you don't recognize the constitutional crisis. Everybody is aware of the situation involving Liam Arias. He was 5 years old in Minnesota, and he got shipped through San Antonio to the Dilley Detention Center. When Judge Fred Beery released him, he wrote a 3-page order. You need to read this 3-page order. In that 3-page order, he cites the Bible, he cites the Declaration of Independence, and he closes by saying, with a judicial finger in the constitutional dike. Now, if you know Judge Beery, and I practice in front of him, he is the most even-tempered, least radical, mild-mannered. He's just he's the kind of person you would expect to be a judge. He's just like that. And he is telling us that there is a flood of unconstitutional things coming. And we need somebody who's prepared, and I am. Thank you.
Ms. Davis.
I need to speak first about the ICE situation between me and Mr. Shannon here.
Locke.
Mr. Shannon Locke. First of all, I abhor what ICE is doing and what they have been dragging people out of beds and so forth. I abhor that. And I especially abhor the fact that my 2 grown sons, who are part Hispanic, have now had to start carrying their passports because they're afraid to go about that they might get jerked out of their cars. I think it's terrible. I have 4 things I would do about the ICE people, but the first one is to prosecute ICE agents who go rogue. Now, I must close. I think it's very important that you realize that someone here is recommending somebody to take over this office who has absolutely no experience in being in a DA's office or in leading a DA's office or in even trying a case. I think that's terrible. I think it's very important that we have calm, steady leadership, that we don't play any games. We're not getting a page out of President Trump's playbook and try to get everybody scared and angry. I think it's important that we have calm, steady leadership at the top.
Mr. Bethke.
I am running to make our justice system and the district attorney's office work better. I promise I will use data to drive decision-making like I have over the last 25 years. I promise that I will be open and transparent in all my actions. And I promise we will have public-facing dashboards, and I will treat all people with respect and dignity. I have an understanding of every part of our justice system and will be ready to lead on day one. I also, like Shannon, will not tolerate federal or state overreach. Being DA demands experience, judgment, and independence. One thing about getting older is you can't buy experience. I am Jim Bethke, and I've spent my career building better justice systems, not tearing them down. If you want a district attorney who will defend the Constitution, uphold the law, and earn the trust of this community, I ask for your support. Thank you.
Mr. Salinas.
You know, I'm not part of the political elite. I don't get to rub elbows with the movers and shakers of this community to carry me to a bought and paid for political endorsement. I'm a first-generation college student. I told you a little bit about myself. I'm not a politician. I'm a fighter. I'm a prosecutor. I'm a defender of those who have been victimized by no choice of their own. I'm here to bring common sense approach to very difficult and challenging problems that our community faces. I'm here to have an open dialogue because I know going forward, that's what's needed. Everyone in this room wants the same thing, and that is a safe Bexar County. That is a Bexar County that we want our kids and our family to grow up in and thrive in. And our office is central to that. If you want a politician who's going to tell you what you want to hear, don't vote for me. But if you want someone who's going to tell you what you need to hear and give you practical, responsible decisions, then I'm your vote. It's Oscar Salinas. Thank you.
Thank you to each of the candidates up on this stage, and thank you all for going with us as we went a little over on time. Thank you to the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce for their work making tonight possible. Thank you to the San Antonio Professional Firefighters Association.